Welcome to Frequency, for women expanding into their next level selves and moving with intuitive clarity and planetary alignment as they do. I'm Caprice, identity mentor, astrologist, and intuitive guide. Your frequency is your energetic signature, how you think, decide, and move. It's your authentic self dialed in. Every episode serves to sharpen that frequency, expanding your capacity to hold your vision and take bold, authentic action towards your manifestations. High standards, high signal, high frequency. What if you're not actually lost? What if you're simply standing between versions of yourself? I want to talk to the woman who is questioning her next chapter. Maybe you're looking at your relationships, your career, your identity, your direction, or maybe you simply know that the life you're creating requires a different version of you. These seasons of transition can be incredibly powerful, but they can also be very overwhelming when you're trying to navigate them alone. And that's why I created the Frequency Reset. It's a 4-week guided transformational experience designed to help you unblock your limitations, strengthen your intuition, and flesh out the woman who is ready to take the wheel. Inside, you'll find guided signal sessions, reflective journaling practices, weekly teachings, and the Frequency Method, a framework I've developed through years of helping women navigate reinvention, identity shifts, personal expansion, and transformation. Because sometimes what you're experiencing isn't actually confusion. It's the process of becoming, and you don't need to force the next chapter. You need a space to hear yourself clearly enough to take the most magnetic next step. And if that resonates, you can begin the Frequency Reset through the link in the show notes. I'm so excited to guide you through it. The stories that we tell ourselves become the reality that we are participating in. We're writing it, we're directing it, we're curating it. And if it is not a story that belongs in the highest frequency version of yourself, that vision of you hold in your head that you most want to be and embody as often as possible, if she wouldn't be thinking that or telling that story or operating from that space, then why are you right now? Women who are expanding into a new chapter often, or might find at some point when they're in that liminal space, they might find themselves leaning towards feeling that their biggest challenge is something that is external. And they might feel like it's the timing, or it's that opportunity and the door closed, or it's that opportunity and the door's open, but I'm not sure if I should take it. It's a job, it's the money, it's the relationship, it's this external thing. More often than not, what's actually going on is that they're carrying a story that their identity has attached itself to, and they can't even fathom a world outside of that limiting story. And you might not even realize that it's a limiting story because you don't realize the limit. I'll say it this way. The other day I was writing down, I wrote like 3 pages long. I put it at my altar. I was writing about a partnership that I would like to call in, or a person that I would like to be in my world. And as I was trying to imagine and visualize and speak in detail about just how expansive and abundant and, affluent this chapter would be, I realized that I had some limitations, that, there were things that I would really love that I wasn't writing down because I didn't see how that could be possible. Or there was some part of me that was saying like, well, that type of person who would provide that type of experience is maybe not your type of person, or blah, blah, blah. I was running into a bit of a limitation there. And I was also finding this with some other manifesting things that I was doing the past week or so. And I thought, how interesting that I have this, what Gay Hendricks would call an upper limit problem here. Actually, I have his book right here. I highly recommend you reading The Big Leap. There is a story. There's a story that is keeping you from making this jump. There's a limiting story that's keeping you from making this jump from the pond to the ocean of your manifestations. This is such a great tool in your toolbox, a great read, a great book. This book for me is all marked up. I love my copy of this book. And I I've been thinking about it a lot this week because our stories really do create our realities. And when we attach ourselves to stories that are dense or troubling, or again, don't really reflect the highest frequency version of ourselves, we're really doing ourselves a disservice. What Gay Hendricks talks about in The Big Leap with the upper limit problem is the edge of what is familiar and what feels safe. And so I've been calling that like the zone of familiarity. It is something that is repeated, therefore it's familiar, therefore it's maybe predictable, it's normalized, and therefore we call it a comfort zone. But I call it the zone of familiarity. And in that zone, there's an edge. Some part of you will reach that edge of the zone of familiarity, and you'll be, 80% of you could be, 80% of your identity could be like, let's go. There's no going back. We have to move forward. And you'll reach the edge, and there you'll have the upper limit problem. And it'll actually be a story about why you can't or why it's not for you. A story that pulls you back into the zone of familiarity. And that story is attempting to protect your identity as it was. If the universe, if source intelligence, this intelligence that is unseen, this blanket of intelligence around us, if it reflects or responds or mirrors or matches us with the frequency and the signal that we are currently holding, with our energetic signature. And if your energetic signature is very much bound to a story of victimhood, what do you think the universe is going to provide you with? What will it mirror? More of the same. You will start to find excuses. You will start to find points of what you feel are validating or points of validation around that victimhood-based story. And I have to say, this past week, and I know this to be true for myself, but I just don't tolerate people who are committed to being a victim in my personal life and in my inner circle. I can't. And I honestly, and this is why I have a process for working with me for mentorship, because I cannot work with women who are committed to being victims. It's a wall. It's a complete wall. It's already a dead end. If you are committed to it and you've already based your identity around that victimhood, where are we to go from there? You've already made a decision. There's a huge difference between seeing your story and your life for what it is and was, and what you choose to commit to. Stories that are based in victimhood create an identity that's based in victimhood, which creates a whole funnel to validate why you can't expand, why you can't grow, why you can't get the relationship you deserve, why you can't get the money you deserve. Plot twist. I don't know if you know this, but you don't need to be perfectly healed to make a lot of money or even be happy. There's no perfectly healed. You don't even have to heal your relationship to money to make more money. You think everyone who has money is perfectly healed there and balanced? No. We can change our stories around it. Absolutely. And that is the work that we do. And that's just a little bit of a tangent, but basically what you need to make money is a vision, audacity, business skills, and the ability to execute. Healing your relationship to money, to make money, that's a story. Actually, that's a story. I'm going to call everyone out on that one. Anyone who's selling a course on healing your relationship to money, I'm sorry, there's no such thing. What do you mean? I have to do this first before I'm able to receive this. I feel like that's like a punishment system. I just don't agree with it. I think it's possible for people to make a shit ton of money before they ever really feel fully healed in the department of money. You just need to have audacity, and you have to have some sense of deservingness, and you need to be positioned well in life. That it just can't be true. This is a total tangent. It just can't be true. Look at the people who hold the most wealth. Are they examples of No, I'm not even going to go there. No. So stop thinking we are going a little too deep down the rabbit hole of fixing ourselves. It's a little too deep. I feel like that just goes a little bit too far. There's a clear difference for me in adjusting your stories and the power of adjusting your story and being told that you have to heal everything before you receive. Babe, the whole point of your soul being in this incarnation, in this body, in this life, is to have the humbling experience of being human. The whole thing is a healing journey. The whole damn thing. So like, at what point are we enjoying it? At what point is it light? At what point are we using our imagination in the way that it's intended to be used? Right use of imagination. At what point are we making it feel easier and lighter and brighter? And you know what? And that is maybe the difference between someone who is so just attached and committed to their victim story versus someone who's not. At the end of the day, you got to have a laugh. At the end of the day, you have to enjoy being here. And I feel like people who are committed to their victimhood are committed to not enjoying daily life. They will look for a reason to be the person who is being wronged. They will look for a reason to fight against something, to have a struggle, to make it hard. It doesn't need to be that hard. And if you're someone who is maintaining their signal and their up level and the current state that they've brought themselves into, if you're maintaining that, your tolerance level for people who hold and are committed to low vibrational stories, aka a low vibrational identity, you're not going to be able to tolerate it. You can't. There's like a spectrum of like frequency states or like octaves of vibration that once you reach up here, you can't like really tolerate too much below. But when you were here, you tolerated this and you can't. That's why when we grow and you're up here, you can't hang with the crew that you were with down here. This is why people, for example, like when you quit drinking, and you're cleaning up your act and you're really taking care of yourself and you're really changing your world, la-di-da, you 100%, you are not going to be hanging out with the people that you were drinking with all the time. I've never seen it. It's one of the first layers of the editing process to occur, because who is in your world and the stories that they tell themselves and the stories that are part of their identity do impact your life. Absolutely. So yeah, this week again, I know this to be true about myself, but I was like, oh my God, I really can't right now where I am in my life and how dedicated I am to my work and my clients and how good I'm feeling. I can't. If you are committed to being in worst case scenario, if you're committed to being a victim, if you take no accountability, I can't do it. You have to start telling yourself, especially when you are in that liminal space or you're up leveling, you're shifting. Again, you're making big decisions to change the trajectory of your world. You have to claim and command. I do not have space for stories that make me smaller. I do not have space for stories that don't help me to paint the reality that I deserve and that I most desire. You have to start telling your stories differently, like quite literally, even changing the language of the story of your upbringing could do, oh my goodness. That's when I really had to learn, because I had a really tough upbringing. And I see it on everyone's face when I tell them the story. They're like, how are you okay? How are you here at all? And I'm like, yeah, I have had to find the most tactful and elegant way of expressing my hardships and using the right language. I alchemize the story. I alchemize my life, my identity, and I alchemize the story. Because when you're between identities, you're especially vulnerable to old stories. That's the whole thing. When we're in the hallway between chapters, when we are up leveling, it really just is us sitting dead center and facing the old story and identity and facing an unwritten story. And that unwritten story lives within you. It's in the desire, it's in the vision, it's in the intuitive nudges that you've been receiving. It's all around you. You just don't believe it yet and you haven't pieced it together yet, but it's there. And that's also where we experience the upper limit problem. We're like, oh, something's pulling me outside of my zone of familiarity. But it's the but that comes in of it all. And that's the upper limit problem of the old identity, of the story that you are telling yourself. Your expansion threatens your identity and it threatens the stories that you've been telling yourself. And when you start to learn to shift your story to go from, for example, worst case scenario to best case scenario, you then have greater capacity to enter an expanded zone of familiarity. You are no longer limited or facing your upper limit problem within the zone of familiarity that you had been in. You are transitioning from point A to point B, and you're willing to become undone. The stories that you repeat shape your world. The stories that the people around you repeat also shape your world. So having great boundaries around where these dense storylines are coming from, the language, the actions. I mean, what story are you going to be loyal to in your next chapter? Because that story is going to define your entire world. It's going to define your frequency, your signal, your magnetism, your capacity to manifest. That story is directing the next life chapter. If you're looking to shift your story, or if you're looking at the current upper limits to where you are as you are transitioning from point A to point B, chapter A to chapter B, your identity is shifting, your life is shifting, your energy is shifting. If you want to shift your story to make sure that it is aligned, to make sure that it is even true, to make sure it reflects the vision that you are holding for what comes next, and you really want to anchor into that vision, I highly recommend stepping into the frequency reset. It is 4 weeks of deep psychic, subconscious, and practical tools that are created for exactly this space, to stabilize a new frequency, to stabilize a new signal, to help you release illusions and cut cords to the old identity and anyone that might even be in your space that's messing up your story with their own. If this podcast is a source of expansion or inspiration, pay it forward and become expansive to the women in your circle. And if you're feeling called to deeper support, you'll find ways to work with me in the show notes. Or head into the frequency reset to accelerate your next up level and claim your next magnetic decision. Until next time, stay intentional, stay connected, keep your signal clean, and thank you so much for listening.